Chapter 9. The next morning, I stood on one of the smaller platforms stretching. Smiling to myself, I had finally beat Galen to the platform today. In the past weeks, he had somehow managed to arrive here before me, always with the same stupid smirk on his face. Now I thought to myself it was my turn. Hearing footsteps, I glanced back, seeing it is Galen. I fight back a smile. Facing the ocean, I continue my stretching. As he walks onto the platform, I say, "So glad you finally decided to join me this morning." Turning towards him, I caught a brief smile on his face. He turns, dropping a bag on the ground. It was silly, but I couldn't wait to see him take his shirt off, which he always did when we trained, especially since the last time I used it to toss his cute butt out into the ocean. I giggled to myself, clearing my throat when he looks at me. I was still pretty proud of that one. I tried really hard not to stare at his hard stomach as he removes his shirt. Oh my, I thought to myself, shaking my head. I remind myself to focus. After he removes all the weapons, he said, "Your turn to pick the weapons today." I walk over to the bench, deciding on the 2 daggers. I exclaim, "I choose these." I turn, arching my eyebrow at him. He smiles at me, nodding. Grabbing the other set of twin daggers, he follows me into the middle of the platform. As usual, a crowd slowly grew, both Garlanians and Arthenians, each cheering for either Galen or me, while his kid brothers walked around making bets on us with the crowd. We start to slowly circle each other. I test the weight of the weapons. I wasn't worried about hurting him or being injured myself, mainly because all the weapons we use for training are made of wood. Although at a glance they look very real, I focus only on him, blocking out everyone else. I so wanted to knock him onto his handsome rear again. We move towards each other, both of us blocking each other's hits. Galen grunts better, then kicks a knife out of one of my hands, sending it flying through the air. Backing away, he says, "You must remember to keep your arms close to your body. Your knife is your shield, little one." I glare at him as I move my arms closer to my body. Standing more like a boxer, I slowly move closer towards him. As we fight, I manage to grab one of his wrists with my free hand while blocking his other with my other arm. I bring my knee up into his stomach, hearing his gasp for air. Then I hit the inside of his wrist that I held, knocking the knife from his hand. Smiling, I move away, saying, "I see what you mean. Do you need a minute?" Galen straightens, switching the knife to his right hand. He only replies, "My turn." Crap, I think to myself. It was never a good sign when he glares at me like he was now. I knew he would never hurt me, but it didn't mean that he would never embarrass me. Galen moves towards me with the same lethal grace and speed as a panther. Sending shivers down my back, I swallow hard, taking a few steps away from him. I take a deep breath and focus on each hit and kick that I make at him, none of which slows him down. He manages to kick my legs out from under me. My only knife goes sliding across the floor as I hit the deck. Excuse me. I roll back to my feet, moving towards the knife. I am suddenly brought to a halt by his muzzled arm around my neck. Galen whispers into my ear, "You forgot rule number 1, princess," I interrupt him, saying, "I know. Never take your eyes off your opponent." The Arthenian men in the crowd were cheering Galen's name as I struggle against him. Though I could not see Nerissa and Lady Flora, I could hear them cheering for me. Galen asked, "Do you give up?" I gasped. "What do you think?" I knew I couldn't pull his arm away, so instead I grabbed the back of his head. I lost my place. So instead, I grabbed the back of my head with both hands and pushed my chin hard into his arm. As he releases me, I turn to face him. Somehow in our struggles, he was now backed up near the end of the dock. I tried using the same kick he had used on me earlier, but I only managed to knock him onto his knees. One more kick, and he would end up in the ocean again. Did I dare? I thought to myself. Smiling, I spin around, kicking my leg out at him. But instead of him flying over the side, he catches my leg in his big hand. Grinning up at me, he says, "Really? You thought that would happen again?" Standing up, he held tight to my leg as I tried to pull away. He asked the crowd, "What do you say, my friends? Do our princess take a little swim? Yes or no?" A loud cheer came from the crowd of men standing around us. I look back to find even Nerissa and Lady Flora cheering. I cry, laughing, traitors. I tried to hit Galen with my fist, but nothing works. I say, "You wouldn't do it. You can't. What if I get hurt? Come on, let go." He laughs. "What was it that you said to me?" "Let's see. Oh, yes, a little water never hurts anybody." With that, he pulls me close, smiling down at me. Suddenly, I was up above his head, the roar of the crowd deafening. I screamed out "no" as I felt myself flying through the air. I held my breath as I kicked back up to the surface of the water. I glared up at Galen, who stands there with the Garlanians and Arthanians men laughing at my misfortune. I try to fight the smile that creeps onto my lips. Then I start laughing too. I swam back towards the dock, taking Galen's outreached hand. I smiled up at him as he pulls me back up onto the deck. I push my finger into his hard chest. I say, "Next time, it'll be you who goes for a swim." He slaps me on my back as I walk away, saying, "We'll see." Nerissa hands me a towel, which I take reluctantly. I say, "Thanks for the support, you two." They look at each other, then me. Lady Flora replies, "Sorry. We kind of got swept up in the moment." Nerissa adds, "Sorry." I smile at them, shaking my head. "It's cool," I say. Later that night, I stand out on the balcony. I watched a neurojet jet pilots practice their fighting maneuvers. I found them completely amazing. They flew through the air with small jets attached to their backs. The water burst out of the jets, propelling them through the air and the ocean. It was a fascinating dance to watch the warriors perform. They could grab a hold of their opponent from mid-air and then drag them down to the bottom of the ocean. I was so captivated by this show that I hadn't noticed Galen standing beside me until he spoke. "Are you enjoying the show?" I reply, "Yes. They're amazing. They look like flying sea snakes, if a snake could fly." Galen agreed. "Yes, and they can be just as deadly." It was a sobering thought. I looked down at the water, saying, "Are we really going to war? There isn't any other way to remove Lark from the throne." Galen replies, "He will not give it up willingly, Dorothy." Leaning forward onto the railing, he continues, "From what our spies have gathered, he has imprisoned the elders' families to gain control over them. Lark controls elders." I interrupt, saying, "He controls the army." Galen says, "We shall have to take the throne from him. It is the only way now." I nod. When will we attack?" He looks down at me, saying, "Soon. Once Captain Arden and his men arrive, we will go to war." I stand up, gasping, "They're alive. How do you know?" "When will they get here?" Galen smiles at me, saying, "I didn't want to worry you until I knew we had them out of the city safely. I have been communicating with him through one of our spies for a few days. He has friends inside the castle who hid him and his men." I ask, "If there is a way to get them out, then why can't we do the same to get to Larg and prevent this war?" Galen sighs. "He is too heavily protected. Besides, he could order the deaths of the elders' family before we could ever reach him in time." I nod. Does Lady Flora know about Captain Arton? He grins, responding yes. She is preparing a grand feast for their arrival. Will you save me a dance? I can feel my cheeks turning red. I stammer. Oh, there is going to be dancing. Well, I don't know how to dance. I'm sorry, I never learned. He smiles at me, saying, the steps are not that difficult to learn. Here, I'll show you. Before I could argue, I found myself within his arms. He places my hand on his shoulder while holding my other hand in his own. Being in his arms made my heart skip a beat. The smell of him was intoxicating. A part of me never wanted him to let me go. I prayed he couldn't see how he made me feel as we slowly danced. He spoke softly. See? It's not difficult at all, my princess. I couldn't take my eyes from his lips as I said, you're right, it's easy. Our eyes met, and I knew he was going to kiss me. I whispered, we shouldn't do this. He asked, do what? His mouth only inches from mine. Before I could respond, his lips were covering mine. He kissed me so slowly, so gently, that I forgot to breathe. As time seems to stand still, all I knew was this very moment. His lips felt so sweet on mine. I didn't ever want him to stop. Someone clears their throat from behind us. He hesitantly says, my apologies, Your Highness, for interrupting. Galen slowly lifts his lips from mine, but does not release me from his embrace. Clearing his throat again, he continues, Sir, your father. He requested your presence in his study. Not taking his eyes from mine, Galen replies, thank you. Tell him I'll be right there. The sound of the soldier's footsteps echo on the floor, letting us know he had left. Galen says, I have to go. He brushes his thumb slowly over my bottom lip. Smiling, he adds, I'll be looking forward to our next dance. Galen then bows to me before turning to walk away. I watch him leave, standing there in shock. I touch my fingers to my bottom lip as I whisper aloud, oh my.